Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host, your coach, your friend. Today, I have another great one, my new good friend, Mike DiCioccio, from not far from here, from Buffalo, New York, the place, my first point of contact in North America, believe it or not. One of the first places you go to New York State. So we're going to New York City. We ended up in Buffalo, of all places. Don't ask me. I didn't choose. Family. I was 14, but whatever. That's another story. So anyways, we got connected through an amazing friend of mine and common friend of ours, Dr. Jamil. Jamil is my brother from another mother. And I'm proud to say that right now he's also one of my students in my program, the 3-week Launch Your Podcast Challenge. Super excited about that. So he connected me to Mike. We have a lot in common because we're both in the podcasting business. Podcasting, has changed my life, and I'm sure has changed his life and brought many opportunities from as well. A little bit about him. He's the founder of Social Chameleon, a podcast production, distribution, and content company. And he is a highly heart-centered entrepreneur, leading from the heart in everything he does. I love his tagline, which is "Be great and be grateful." He has a lot of things coming on, so there's a lot we will unpack in this episode. And for the record, this is going to be episode 162. So, Mike, welcome to the show, my friend.
162. I love it. I'm a big baseball fan, so I kind of like that. 162 game season. Yeah. Hey, man, I appreciate you having me. I haven't met a person that's come to me through Dr. Jamil that I haven't loved. So
Exactly.
let's add you to the list. You're looking good. You did your hair today for me, being on the show.
It's been 3 hours just for you. You know what I mean?
Is this actually an audio and video podcast?
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
Cool. All right, so maybe the joke will land if people can see what we're talking about here.
So you mentioned baseball. Are you more a Nets or Yankee?
I'm a Yankees fan. As you mentioned in the top of the show, I'm from Buffalo. But my dad has been a Yankees fan since he was a little guy. And my family came from Italy through New York and then down into Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And he's been following the team since the 60s. So
nice.
All the great teams with Mickey Mantle and Maris and Rizzuto and you name it. And I grew up in that. And then when I was about 10 years old, that's when the team won in 96 when I was 10. And then they just were on fire. They won in 96, 98, 99, 2000. And it was hard not to love those teams. They not just for winning, but they had great characters on the team, Jeter, Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill. And we had characters on the team and they were performers and they got the job done. And Joe Torre was a great manager and skipper. And so I have a lot of fond memories of the New York Yankees, and my dad passed in 2020. And most of my fond memories of my father were the times that we watched Yankees games either in person. He took me to a game in the Bronx, and I took him to a game in Toronto, actually to see one of Jeter's last games a few years back. Oh, wow. And then we used to watch all the playoff games together too.
Wow. Awesome. Fantastic. Wow. That's beautiful. Now, I don't know if you remember last time we spoke, I told you the type of conversations I like to have on my podcast is to look under the hood, to see what's in your heart, to have a heart-to-heart conversation, to get to know the person first and foremost. Sure, we're going to talk about your business, but it's going to be the focus of the first part of the podcast is going to be about getting to know you as a human being, because you know what, business happens first and foremost as a personal level first. If you can't connect with a person as a person, then their credentials, their experience don't even matter to you. So this is what we're going to do. Ready?
I'm ready to roll.
Let's rock and roll. So for people who don't know you, tell us, who's Mike as a person and as a human being?
Yeah. Again, thank you for having me on and giving me the opportunity to share this. And anyone who's tuning in right now, thank you for being here and giving us your time and attention, because I know there's a lot of options out there. My story starts right here, actually in Buffalo, New York. Born and raised here. Interests as a kid were always in creating. I love making movies with my brother. We used our mom's shoulder camera back in the late 80s, early 90s. If you've ever seen the show The Goldbergs, I feel like my brother and I were similar to those brothers, different in many ways, but that's the kind of thing. We're always running around with the camera, creating, kind of being goofballs. We would reenact some of our favorite programs, like the old Three Stooges stuff, and we'd write our own. We literally thought we were going to be like the next Zemeckis and Spielberg. Those were our idols. We used to watch these shows. I forget what channel. I think it was Discover Channel. Or Discovery, is it, with Movie Magic, where they would show blowing up all the sets of the little miniatures and all this cool stuff. So that was really what interested me as a kid, creating, when I would play with toys, a lot of kids like playing with their toys here. I was actually envisioning movies with them, like creating that kind of stuff. I also got into music. I played the drums starting at about 10, 11 years old. Every school band that had percussion, I was signed up and
Wow.
performing. Did that all the way up until high school, senior year, graduated high school, and then went into kind of playing in rock bands. First show out, first concert was on my 18th birthday. Shout
Nice.
out to Mohawk Place in Buffalo. That was my
Wow.
first gig. And then I played, for about 7, 8 years. And life took a little change of direction when I was about 25 years old. That's when I started to turn into the business version that you see today. When I was 25, I got married and kind of started to settle down in that regard. I didn't know exactly who I wanted to be. I was working at a music store actually, and I fell in love with sales. And I didn't know that sales would be something that found me, but it was a big turn in the story in that I really loved when you're talking about heart-centered business, right? I love someone coming into the store, me getting to know them. They share a little bit about their story, and then I kind of find out what they either need or want, and then I show them something, right, in a sales presentation, but in a way that I care about the fact that this is helping them. Or in a music store, it's more of a want than a need of anything.
Sure.
People buying a guitar or whatever, and I just really love connecting with them and seeing them happy. And then I knew that, I got really good at like, okay, well, you need this, let's get you some strings, and not just to upsell people, but to really give them the best offer I can put together so they get the best use out of their instrument. And, I was at that point making like, hourly wage. And this is many moons ago. I think I was making $7 an hour, to put it kind of on a time on how long ago this was. And maybe a little commission to put gas in the tank to get me back and forth to the store. This is the time when I was saving up for my engagement ring for my soon-to-be wife. And when we got married, I knew I wanted to up my game in sales and start to get into more of like a professional environment. And where things really took a bigger turn is I got recruited by, and that's not true. I actually worked at Sleep Number. I saw that they were hiring. Sleep Number is a great mattress company, been around since I think 1987. And they have like one of the most innovative products on the market for sleep. And I didn't know too much about it, except for the fact that when I worked at another store, I worked at a furniture store previous to the music one. And one of the people I worked with mentioned that they had a Sleep Number bed. And that was just a little seed planted in my head that this thing existed. And I happened to be walking at the mall with my fiance at the time. And I look up and I'm like, I didn't even know we had one in Buffalo. There's a Sleep Number store right here. So when I went home that night, it was a Friday night. I went on monsterjobs.com and I applied for this job on a Friday night, which who's doing that? And Saturday morning, I got a phone call. My cell phone rings, and it's the store manager. And she's like, I really liked your application. You just scored really, you did really well in the testing, and we'd love to talk to you soon. So we're going to get you through this process. I talked to like 3 different people on the phone. When I went to the store to interview for this job, the regional manager happened to be there that day. Whether that was intentional, planned, or just kind of happened that way, I got the opportunity to, you know, have a great connection with her. Right. So I took that as like, hey, I get to actually talk to the regional right now. If she falls in love with me, I got the gig. And I did. I got that job. And the reason I even tell it is because that's when life really changed for me. Because at that point, I was selling high ticket items. I did over $800,000 in sales in my first year in
Wow.
business, and my goal was like 500,000. So when I won the President's Circle Award that year and got to go to Park City, Utah, and crack a beer with the CEO of the company, and we're hanging out talking, it made me realize that I was capable of so much more than I maybe thought I was. Not that my parents didn't say I was going to amount to anything. It's not that they didn't encourage me in ways, but it was like they kind of let you figure things out. Um, where my wife at the time, so I got married that summer, and her dad was a regional director in pharmaceutical sales. So he had a really nice sales job, and he worked his way up from literally nothing to this nice position. And so I got to see him, and I'm like, I realized that he's a nice guy. He's smart. He's a good communicator. Like I felt like I could take my skills and kind of work that way. Right. And to me, I told you I like baseball. I love sports in general. I'm not a physically gifted athlete. I played some ball back in the day, but I was never the top performer on the team. My performance happened in sales, and it was a challenge, me versus me. And so if you told me, Mike, I want you to sell 30 beds by the end of the month, you better believe I'm going to have like 37 of them in, right? Like crazy. Um, and it was always a personal challenge with myself. And the reason I did well, to get back to the heart center part of this conversation, is I really do care about who I'm helping out. So I didn't sell any ever in my life did I stay at a company that I sold something I didn't believe in. I mean, you might say, oh, you sold mattresses. Well, you're just telling me what I did. You're not telling me the purpose. Purpose why I was doing that, because I was helping people, right? Who was either have a car accident, they had poor sleep and rest, their day is impacted. Like our day is so connected to how much quality sleep we get that I was literally improving lives. And that was part of the mission statement. We're improving lives, right? So it felt really good working there. And then I got compensated better than ever before. I mean, I'm 30. At that time, I was 25. um I'm 36 today, so this is a decade ago. I was 25 and I was making like, 65 grand, which is pretty good in Buffalo, New York. And then I continued to make a little bit more, a little bit more. And from there, to share the rest of the story, I got recruited into insurance. And I remember telling that recruiter, I don't know anything about insurance. I just pay my premiums and hope I never hear from you. The only
Yeah.
time you talk to an insurance company is if there's a problem.
Yeah.
And so she's laughing and said, you know what? We'll send you down to Florida for 2 weeks. We'll get you a company laptop and we'll get you licensed. If
Well,
you know how to sell sleep number beds, we can teach you how to sell insurance. And they were right. So I did that for about 4 years and happily took care of people, protecting people's portfolios, their family, their, all their goodies, their cars, their boats, and all that good stuff. And after a few years, I kind of realized, whoa, what is going on? And the reason I told you that story about me as a kid is because I had this vision that I was going to do something more creative. I'm a creative person. I love that. And I got into sales realizing it was something I was good at and I enjoyed, but it wasn't so much of the creative. I went to Buffalo State College for media production. That was right around the time I was working at that music store. So I had got my 4-year degree and I was doing like studio work and just learning how to use cameras and produce and green screen and all that stuff, right? I was going to Buffalo State. And once I graduated, there was like, I either had to move to New York, Toronto, Los Angeles, right? That's like where the opportunities were. And I was in a serious relationship. So I was in a bind. She said to me, if you want to go out to California, go do it. Like I have an uncle who lives in Sherman Oaks working in like Hollywood and making major motion pictures. He's on the audio side of things as well. And she said, you could go, like, I'm not going to hold you back. And I decided not. I decided to stay,
beautiful.
got married, started a family. Our daughter was born in 2015. Things seemed to be going well. I created kind of this business version of myself, which I was happy for the most part. But over time, it started to wear on me when I got into this situation where I felt like I wasn't really myself anymore. I kind of became someone who I thought the world wanted me to be. And maybe even though my wife at the time didn't directly say you have to be this way, I think she appreciated the guy who kind of was becoming business wise. But our relationship and marriage ended up failing because there's a lot of things that were not going well. And so we decided to kind of mutually divorce. And she kind of brought it to the table, and I realized we had this dark situation that I didn't see us being able to turn around no matter what you did to it. I just didn't see it work. And we tried, we did the counseling route. And there was a couple times we were kind of separated, and eventually it was like inevitable that it happened. But that actually happened in 2017, and which was kind of the next chapter or the current chapter I'm in now, which allowed me to reevaluate who the heck I am, what do I want to do, and how do I want to serve this world? Because it's super important that I don't just do stuff that makes Mike better and benefits me and my family, and we can live this beautiful life and I can have a plethora of money coming out of my ears. But if I didn't serve anybody on this planet, and like, you know, in the X amount of years I get on this planet, we don't know our end date. Let's say I'm 85 years old, which would be a beautiful blessing to be able to be that age. Um, what did I actually do? Who did I touch? Like, how many people did I touch their lives to make it better? Did I just exist to collect a paycheck so then my family is doing okay? Hey, take care of your family. I'm all about it. But look at the landscape in front of us. So in 2017, the divorce had me actually reevaluate who I was as a person, what I wanted to do. And I decided to leave corporate America, even though at that time I was making good money. I was closing in on like my first $90,000 a year. And I walked away from it. And I said, I don't care because it's not making me fulfilled. I want to go do something special. And everybody was like, you're crazy. You're getting divorced and you're taking less money. Good luck, buddy. And
Sure.
you know what? I did. I went rock bottom. I actually nosedived really fast. And then from there, I just had to start to do little disciplined actions, build my business up, meet the right people, get mentorship. When I can afford it, I always invested in the company. And I went from, my first client to now having, really 10x the company. And I did it all through the pandemic. And Social Chameleon was a company I built in 2017. And we've had some iterations of the company. The vision changed a little bit. And we started off as a media and marketing company. And the reason why is I thought that's what people wanted. And then I realized what's more important is for us to do what we're great at and what we love doing. And people, if we can serve through that, people will pay for it. And
Absolutely.
so I started doing 18 different things for media and marketing, like website design and SEO and Facebook pages and you name it. I would say, yeah, we could do that. And then I took on my first podcast client in 2019. And from there, I decided the whole company is going to focus on podcasting because that's how much I love and appreciate it. And I see it's a medium that's doing great things in the positive space. And I just want to wrap up my story with this and tell you as much more as you want to hear. But when I was in sales and also as a store manager going from store to store, I used to travel a lot and I used to listen to podcasts a lot. And the stuff I learned, I call it the education on wheels or university on wheels. The stuff I learned in the car listening to podcasts was way more impactful than anything I learned in a classroom.
Certainly.
And I'm not knocking school, but I was able to get direct information in the categories and interests that I had and with people who did it and did it well. It's not like I'm learning something from a professor who has a little bit of knowledge about a topic. These are the best guys and girls in the industry teaching me directly how to do it. Way more impactful. And it was how much? Free.
Yeah.
Cost me nothing. So I owe a lot to podcasting. And so when I decided I was going to help a friend with his show and then eventually got the guts to do my own show, I kind of was like, it was a heart tug. I felt God actually planted a seed in my heart and said, go do your show. And the purpose is to inspire people to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. And so when I launched Mic'd Up, that's my podcast in 2019, it only took 1 month after the show was out for somebody to say, hey, can you help me launch my show? And the
Wow.
answer was yes. And then I did that. And then all of a sudden I went up to doing 10 shows and I had to hire a team. And now I have a team of myself and 4 other people that are editors, video editors, show note writers, doing distribution. We do cover art. We have a graphic artist on the team now. So we are actually a podcast done for you company. And so that's
Oh,
where I'm at today. I went from the little kid with the dream to learning business, going through a devastating situation with divorce, and then having the ability to reevaluate and be the man I wanted to be because nobody could tell me any differently.
absolutely. Wow. Powerful. What a story. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
We have a lot to unpack. We're going to talk about your business in a moment. But now let me
Cool.
ask you now a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you as a person. Tell us, Mike, what makes you happy?
Serving others and truly seeing them better, leaving them better than I found them.
Beautiful. What makes you smile?
Seeing my daughter giggle.
Yes, beautiful. Now, what makes your heart and your soul come alive?
Connecting people and making the world a lot smaller. People like yourself, Dr. Jamil, we mentioned, just being in a space where I know people are up leveling and forward thinking. It literally it fuels me up. I get giddy about it. Like I get that Christmas morning feeling when I'm just vibing with good people.
Okay, same here. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
Seeing a world that still struggles to be peaceful with one another
Mhm.
over differences. It could be a family member arguing with someone over a difference and not being able to
Yes,
love each other, even though you may have a different opinion on something. And I still don't understand why peace is so hard. Man, I am, it sounds kind of like a hippie thing. Give peace a chance, right? I'm picturing John Lennon here.
absolutely.
Um, but man, it doesn't need to be so difficult. Like I really don't get it.
There's plenty for all of us. Why be greedy? Exactly. There's
Yeah,
plenty.
like if you don't like what someone's doing, let them kind of go do their crazy ritualistic stuff. If they're not hurting
Yeah,
either their own
exactly.
people or our people, then I'm all right with it. But once you start hurting people, and literally and like physically, and you're
Totally.
just destroying things and people and families, and you're separating families, that's when all of a sudden you got to get into what we're right now as we're talking about this. We got the war in Ukraine going on, but I'm
Yeah.
not even specifically talking about that. It just excuse me. We live in a world now where I love social media because it builds connections and a lot of information can be shared at a touch of a button. What it's doing that's negative is it's giving a platform to these keyboard warriors who are just bullies and they're just picking. I mean, I could watch a video and it could be just like a heartfelt thing. And then I just happen to click on the comments and people are chewing each other up,
I think yes.
like spitting each other out. Like, why does everybody hate on everyone in these comment sections? And it just makes me really sad for the world. You asked me what makes me sad, and it's sad to see how people really have kind of lost humility. And
Exactly.
I say that in general. I know there's so many great people out there like yourself, and I love connecting with. There are great people in this world doing positive things, but I think a lot of people still need a kind of a wake up call and need to figure out what their purpose is instead of knocking people down. How can you bring people
Totally.
up?
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Now, tell us, what scares you?
What scares me? The thing that scares me the most is having not knowing for sure if what I'm set out to do will happen. Like just maybe uncertainty. And that uncertainty is just that's a disastrous word because if you're uncertain, you
Yes.
lack confidence and
Hmm.
stuff. So I'm super confident in everything I'm doing, but I also, um, do not know exactly how it's going to turn out. So sometimes things turn out better than you anticipated, and some things they turn out a little less than they anticipated. But I think what kind of worries me the most is that, I could be 25 years from now and still not hit on what I hit that I set out to the world to do. Doesn't mean I'm not going to go with it with a ridiculous high energy attitude obsession to do the best I can. But if I had to say what am I worried about is that, hey, maybe the plane doesn't land on the mark that I set out. But I know that that's actually God's plan for me. So as long as I feel I'm tuned in with him and taking his cues, I
Exactly.
think I know I will be okay. But I guess to answer your question, it would be falling short of my vision.
Awesome. Now, what would you say is your your personal number one personal superpower?
Connecting with somebody and pulling their story out of them in an
Mhm.
interview. Like, so being the host of Mic'd Up, I think is my number one superpower. So when I meet someone, I find the juice, the good stuff in their story, and then I kind of re-articulate it back out to the audience with them in a story, telling a story, and then that information is used to better the audience. So I think I feel I'm really good at being able to do that, similar to yourself, where you have someone on and you really make them shine, but you get that story out and you get it well articulated into the messaging that you're looking to put out into the world.
Awesome. Now,
That's aside for being highly handsome. I mean, just I can't help
yes,
that. God gave me
absolutely.
this gift.
Exactly. Exactly. Then now we just make the most of it. Absolutely. Now, what was your very first trip that you took?
To be comical, I would say, my first day on the world, but we'll keep that story
Oh,
out of
that's
this.
a love,
Is it-
amazing one. That's the best answer I've had so far. I swear to you, man.
that
Love that. Do you
was my
remember?
first
No,
trip
no.
down
Do you
the old
remember anything
canal.
from that day?
Of course not. Does anybody remember their first
Some
day?
do. Some do.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't have memories past, I'd say 5 or 6 years old is weird. I have certain maybe things because pictures help me kind of like,
Yeah.
I could kind of remember what that looked or felt like.
You get
But
sometimes some flashbacks of moments just like flashing by
but a
your
lot of it
mind.
is like videos help me, like we have the old
Yes.
VHSs and stuff,
Yes. Yes.
because I'll watch a VHS but I'll remember what it felt like being in the moment of that day. So that helps me. And that's why I get a ton of video of my daughter, and I've been saving and
Oh,
documenting it, because I
yes.
think when she goes back and she's 18 years old or older, she can go back and remember the fun things we did when
Oh,
she was
yeah.
5, 6, 7 years old. But I don't really have memories probably previous to like around 5 years old,
Okay. Now,
you know. But my first trip to, like, you're talking traveling wise,
yes.
um, I remember going to Cooperstown. It's not that big far of a trip from Buffalo, but it's a family trip where we all went together, and we went to the Baseball Hall of Fame, Cooperstown Hall of
Wow.
Fame. And I remember we had this funny situation where the hotel, whatever the hotel that my dad ended up getting, it was so booked that I think we just took whatever was available. In this place, the floors were uneven on our level, and we kept laughing that everybody's just going to go to bed and wake up, and we're all going to be on the floor in the corner of the room.
Like
It's the
our
best.
pizza, like, like this.
It was like that. Oh man, we laughed about that for years.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's like one of my first family trips I
You
remember.
remember
And
the
then
name of that hotel?
oh gosh, no.
I'm just curious. I just want to check it out. Maybe if I go
It's
myself,
funny.
just the
It's
dark, and
funny.
I'll send you a picture. Hey, man, I'm here.
So I remember that. And then we went to Phoenix a few times. Actually, my first trip, I mean, I was an infant. I went out to Phoenix, but then we went again when I was, old enough to remember it a couple times. When I was 8, my dad took me to New York City to see a Yankees game, Old Timers Day. And then when I was maybe that same year, maybe a year earlier, later, we went out to Disneyland in California to visit my uncle that I mentioned out there. So we did a little bit, probably from ages 8 to 12 was when we did most of our family traveling.
Okay, wonderful.
The only country I've been to aside from the United States is Canada, because it's right
Okay.
there,
Oh,
right over
yeah,
the border.
absolutely. Now, let me take you down a different type of traveling, down memory line. Go back to when you're a young boy growing up. When we're kids, people around us ask us, uh, hey, Mike, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer back then as a young boy?
If I was 11 years old, it was a rock and roll drummer, but also New York Yankee.
Oh,
Those are the two
yes.
things. I wanted to play ball, or I wanted to be a rock and roll drummer.
Did you
Those
have
are
your
the two.
room full of posters of the Yankee players or rock stars?
My brother's room was, my dad took over his room and it turned it into a museum. Baseballs, every favorite player, he had a signed baseball, and my dad had a collection of every Yankees card from 1950 until
Wow.
recently.
That will
So
be worth a fortune by now.
yeah, it's got to be. And so that was my brother's room. My room, yeah, it was kind of a mix of, I remember having like a Nirvana poster and band stuff, and some sports stuff. It was a mix of like Buffalo Bills stuff and music.
Nice, nice. So let's stay to when you were kids. What was your relationship with school? Did you love school or did you hate school growing up?
I didn't hate it because I liked hanging out with friends, and I was cool with kind of going and kind of getting out there and hanging out. But I didn't apply myself. I can kind of tell you a little bit of a story. I know this is rapid fire, but I did not enjoy school necessarily. I'd rather be home playing a video game or
Yeah.
playing touch football in the street or whatever
Like
we were
most
doing back then.
boys. Yeah, absolutely. I was
Yeah,
like that too.
exactly. So but I didn't have my potential unlocked until I was 15 years old. I had a high school algebra teacher, ninth grade, who was teaching things in a way that made it a little bit more fun to learn. She stayed after class with me and made sure I understood it at my speed and whatever she had to do to make me get it. And once she unlocked that, I got a 94 in the Regents exam, which is like a higher standardized test in New York State. And she called my parents when I wasn't even home from school yet. And so I walked in the house and they said, "Oh, we just got off the phone with your teacher." And of course, you think that that's usually bad news. I'm like, "I didn't get in a fight today. What's going on?" And they said, "Yeah, you got a 94 in your exam. We're really proud of you." So previous to that, I was like happy to get high 70s, 80s. If I got a 90, it was like, did I guess correctly? So that was a moment when I realized she unlocked my potential. She believed in me. She worked with me. She made me realize that there is a way I can unlock it and make it work. And then the next couple of years in math, I got 90s on all my math tests, except for one year when I had this teacher who the smartest kid in the class, because this guy used to stand up there and read the grades out. The highest, smartest kid in the class would get an 80. So I would get like a 69, which in every other class would have been like a 90. It's really weird. But once I got through that guy's class, I went, and in 11th grade and 12th grade, I got 90s again. So I basically, it took me a really long time to unlock my potential. And that actually led me into wanting to be a school teacher. I went to Buff State originally to be an elementary education teacher because of that moment. I wanted to unlock kids when they were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old instead of waiting until they're in high school. I pursued it for a minute, had a conversation with my advisor. She said, "What do you want to do the rest of your life?" And I told her the story that I told you at the top of the show, creating, making movies, content. And she's like, "Why don't you do the television, film, and arts department?" And she pointed out the window, and there's this brick building that just looked like it was a library. What's in there? She said, "In the basement, there's a TV studio." And basically, I was a cloud of dust. She didn't even finish the sentence, and I was already out the door and signed up for the first class. So
Wow.
yeah, so that's how it all happened. I definitely have a love and appreciation for kids and making sure that they're unlocking their greatness. But I don't hate on school. I just think it's so systemized, and it kind of creates a lot of employees, but
Oh, yes.
doesn't favor the thinker as much, the outside the box kind of thinker. Like I said, I learned so much more in podcasting and probably 3 years
Absolutely.
than I did than lessons that made me a better man than I did in 20 years of school. So
Absolutely. I agree. Same thing for me. Podcasting has been part of my ongoing education, only as a consumer myself, but also since I've started my podcast, speaking with over 160 plus amazing world-class experts in every field you can imagine, learning about areas I thought I knew, but most importantly, learning about areas I had no idea even existed. Now that's
mhm,
beautiful, and learning from not just people that know, just as you mentioned, from books, but actual expert doing it on a day-to-day basis. That's very
mhm.
powerful. Awesome. Now tell us, what was your very first job?
Mighty Taco, making
Oh,
tacos in it's a local taco joint in Buffalo area, in the Buffalo area.
mhm.
Yeah, first job,
How much were you
but
making back then for that job?
$6 an hour.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. My first job was distributing flyers for a pizza place, getting paid $5 an hour and cash plus pizza. I lasted 3 days on the weekend.
Oh wow. I lasted about 6 months. There was a day when my girlfriend and I at the time, my high school sweetheart, her and her family used to treat us out to Myrtle Beach every summer, and we ended up doing it 3 summers in a row. And I don't know if this is probably my first year going with them. We had like a 10 or 14-day trip planned, and I had this time scheduled off, so work already approved it. And there's this manager, she was really nasty. And one day I put the beans in the oven. We had bean burritos, beef burritos, the whole thing. Beans were in there, and I must have forgot to set the timer, or I didn't hear the timer, and I burnt these things to freaking crisp, right? And any good manager would be like, "Oh my God, like, you got to be more careful, coach me up, tell me why I did it wrong or how I did it wrong. Let's fix it, get some new beans in there." Not how she handled it. She came in, UMFer, but she was like, "You mother," she was just laying into me. Now, my Italian thing, like, my parents are hard on me in a good way growing up. My dad was like my biggest critic, but you could handle it when it's your father telling you goofed
Yes,
up.
sure.
But when it's just this manager, I'm making $6 an hour, and it was like one of the only mistakes I probably made there ever. And she's laying into me like that. I took my hat, I threw it, took my shirt off, I walked out of there. I was done.
Beautiful.
And then I went to vacation the next day, 14 days in Myrtle Beach. And people, I don't remember if they were necessarily clapping for me, but I know my buddies there were like, it was a riot. They were like, yeah, like kind of happy that I kind of told her to F off, basically.
Absolutely. That's the best way to handle like a boss. Absolutely. I wish it was sometime you wish there was, cell phones with cameras recording it, because that would have been one of the highlights, your
That
life's
would have
highlight
been
reels.
it would have been an IG reel for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Wow. Amazing. Now, let's move forward. There's a saying that says, change your story, change your life. So when you, Mike, had to change your story, either to bring it back to where you want it to be, or to basically change your life, how did you do it? Was it through the help of friends, family, mentors, books, videos, podcast? Tell us what you did to change your story, to change your life.
The moment that things changed for me and my perspective changed was when I had unfortunately had to hit rock bottom. Sometimes I need the frying pan to wake me up, and that's how I learned something. Like
We all do.
you could tell me something that's going to help me, but like I may just miss it or dismiss it till a later date. The frying pan moment was I was really struggling, and I was having this conversation with God, and just was like, man, I surrendered, and I said, put me in position to do whatever is right for you. Like, how do you want to make this place better? I don't know how I'm going to do that or what I'm going to do or whatever it is. This is a few years back, and in the that's when like Social Chameleon pivoted, and when Mike Up came out, and really my life started to take a turn for the better about 2 years ago, and really like turn into the thing it is today. Because I was doing okay, then I kind of nosedived, and now it's like the comeback story part of it. But to emphasize what changed the story was that I stopped doing things for me and I started to do things for him and serve on purpose. Whether someone believes in God, the universe, call it a superpower, I do believe that it's a lot bigger than you and me, Payman, and bigger
Yeah,
than anyone listening. For them to just go and solve what they want in the world to make X amount of dollars, I think that's thinking too small. So I had to change my think.
absolutely. Wow, beautiful. Yeah, you're right. We all need to hit rock bottom, because when you tell someone not to do something, they will. It's human nature. When you tell someone not to do something, they will be tempted to do it even more. But
It's true.
just like a kid, tell them, don't put your hand on the pot. They're not gonna do it. They will put until they get burned. They know what it is. Then they will know. Same thing. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Now, let's talk now about your business. Tell us what the impact you're having now. So you mentioned that you've been into a lot of different businesses, but the one I'm really interested in is podcasting. So you mentioned that you've been an avid listener yourself. So at what point did you realize was that said, okay, now it's time for me to launch my own show?
Yeah. So, like I said, about 2016, I was listening quite heavily to Ed Milet, Lewis House.
Ah,
Grant
yes.
Cardone had a show that I don't think's out anymore. It used to be called Power Players. And I got to hear from some of the best people in business, and Grant would kind of pick their brain and they'd share these amazing stories. And I was like a fly on the wall to hear all of this great stuff. So those were kind of the three big ones I'd listen to. From time to time, I would listen to Tony Robbins as well. So those are that was what I was putting into my think tank. And then a friend of mine, I was helping him kind of get his business off the ground as well in a different role. It was a mastermind group all across the country. There were different, it was mostly Northeast, but he wanted to open it up across the country. So he was doing these mastermind groups called Avanti, and his name's Dave Mamano. He's a friend of mine who's out in Rochester, New York. And so I was a regional director, and I was helping get memberships in all these different pockets of the Northeast, and was kind of an advisor to help people launch their mastermind group in different cities. So we had like Buffalo, New York City. We were looking to get into Pennsylvania. We had, we were in Vermont, I believe. We had just launched one, but things kind of took a turn, and the company pivoted into a different direction. So while I was working with him, though, he had his own show called the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast, and he was interviewing great business leaders and thought leaders. And he needed some help with kind of the production of it and getting it on YouTube. And he knew I knew media. So I said, yeah, I'll help you out with it. And it literally was just me thinking I was helping out a friend. We were, I was getting paid to do it and all that. And then eventually I was like, I like this. I enjoy it. I know what I'm doing now. I know how to do distribution because I learned that part of it. And before you know it, it was like a light bulb went off. Like I can do this for myself. And that's, like I said, I had a heart tug moment from God saying, part of your purpose is to get this show out, interview people that are going to inspire people to be leveling up in their life. It could be faith-based as well. A lot of conversations go down that realm that happens naturally. And Social Chameleon has become a faith-based organization as
Beautiful.
well, and we'll talk about that. But so that's really how it happened, is helping out a friend, falling in love with it, and then taking it to the next level, and then launching my own show.
And then the rest is history.
Yeah, well, the rest has literally been getting better and better as it goes.
How did you grow it? How did you scale it? Was it word of mouth? Did you actively have a marketing game plan, or?
Yeah, so it did start as word of mouth. My first referral was actually an existing client. So when I launched Mic'd Up, a month later, they came to me and said, holy smokes, like, we didn't know you could do podcasting. I said, yeah. So I thought they wanted me to kind of help them with it. And then eventually turned into, can you do it for us? Of course, I said, yes. Then once I got that off the ground, other people were asking me about it. And I started to do some videos on LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm doing podcast production now. And then I just turned the website from what it was into a podcast production, distribution, and social media content site. And then when people saw what that was all about, it helped me continue to build my book to the point where I had so many projects going on at once that I needed to hire an intern, hired him to help with production, eventually got him up to more of a part-time role. And then I knew that we were really cooking now, and we had some better paying clients. I was really accepting almost anything in the beginning, like, hey, you want to, you'll blink and give me $1. Okay, we'll work for you. But now it's like I'm very strategic about what our plans are, who our target market is. And it's grown that way. But literally, I just continue to scale the team up as I need to. So if I have, 5 regular clients that are paying me on a monthly basis, and I know that it takes 2 people to do all the work for it, and then we get a 6th one, if we're all working 12-hour days, okay, we need to bring another person in. Now we kind of breathe a little bit. I continue to work 12-hour days. I want everybody else to live more of a more balanced lifestyle than that. And I'm telling everybody, I want to get you guys where you're done at 5 o'clock on Friday, because I know a lot of times they're working on the weekends for me too. I go, I want you guys to be able to spend your family time. And so then I know I need to hire another person, so then we can all enjoy our weekend time, and so it's just gone that way. And then I just continue to be mindful of, what do we need? Do we need a show notes writer? Yeah, we do. So let's go ahead and find that person. I'll put feelers out on LinkedIn. I've done a couple Facebook ads that mention that we're looking to hire. I got about 47 applications in 2 days when I did that. So I have so many. I just stopped advertising that we were growing, because I have so many people I can go into the files and say, hey, are you still interested in doing some work? But we have audio editors, video editors. Sometimes that's the same person. We have show notes writers, cover art artists, graphic designers, myself, who does it all. Everything I've listed above. Plus, I'm the one who's doing the final distribution on every show currently, because before I put a client's show out into the world, it goes through me right now, and I get to see everything before it goes out. Eventually, there's going to be more people that I train in that position that are going to be highly important, because we don't want anything going out that's not finished correctly, typos, all that stuff. So they need to have the same stringent eye that I do before stuff goes live.
Absolutely. So where is most of your time spent now on the business? Is it you just, building relationships and bringing the business, and then once you get the business, just letting your team take over? What is your position now?
Right now, as the president of the company, I'm the founder and president, but right now, as more of the president role, I am managing every project. So I'm the one who's giving the team their projects every week. We use Trello to keep everybody on the same page. So we all live in different cities, but
Sure.
we all are on the same team, and I connect with everybody on the team weekly, so they all know what the expectations are. They feel heard and understood. And if they ever have a question, they can call me. I happened to be up very late last night working, and one of the guys on my team's like, man, I just saw you responded to one of my files I uploaded. Like, what are you doing? I go, don't worry about me. Like, you shouldn't be up either. Get some sleep, But everyone on the team there's great camaraderie, and I would not be where I'm at without them. But I am very much managing all the projects, doing some of the editing, looking to get away from that and back into sales. I actually had a meeting yesterday, which went really well. I'm not going to name the company, but I pitched actually to an incubator that's a venture capital company for potential investors in the company. I'm not looking to sell. I'm looking to simply get some additional money. We don't need it, but if we get it, it'll certainly help us get to where we want to go faster. And I'll have to see what their offer is. And if it's something that we are willing to play ball with, we would do that. But I'll tell a cool story. Is first time I ever pitched to anybody, I created my pitch deck, which I haven't had created. And the whole process really had me falling in love with the company again, because I was going back to the story and the why and what we're doing. And I actually took Uber, and I found their original pitch deck that Uber pitched, and I just changed each page to our own. and I was pitching to the guy's name was Jason. He was just like a really nice guy. He didn't make me feel uncomfortable. And I went in there really with a high confidence, but I realized that I don't need this. So like, I'm not desperate. I'm not in there with desperation breath, you know. I just was being myself. He wanted to hear my story. I shared a little bit of what I shared on the show today. And he got to know where I'm coming from. And then he asked me some of the questions you asked about how I grew the team. And when I was giving specific situations, I was like telling him about the team members. So he got a real good feel for what we got going on. And then one thing I think I did really well is when I asked him how he's connected to podcasts, like does he listen, what his favorite shows are, and who in his direct space creates podcast, like does he have any podcasters that he knows of? So when he said yes to that and gave me some specifics, when I did the presentation, I tailored it to him and his space. So it wasn't generic, it wasn't boring. It was, hey, we're talking about like, this is how I can help these people know how they do this. Well, this is how we would react, you know. And so when I was telling the story, it was very specific and tied back to him. And I felt like he was lit up like a Christmas tree the whole time, just excited to get through it. And at the end, his exact quote, "You knocked it out of the park." Now,
Wow.
tomorrow I find out because he took all the information and the recorded pitch. And today, as we speak right now, he's in the process of pitching this to the board of directors. And tomorrow I'm going to find out if we get approved to go into the next level,
Wow.
the next round. It's a win-win situation. He's either going to tell me
Sure.
tomorrow that we're in and that they want to work with us, so we're in the accelerator program, or he's going to tell us, hey, these are the things that they'd like to see. Like, you're not 100% ready yet. We need to see you here. And when you get to that level, then you can go through. Hey, that's great. Now I know what areas we need to improve on. I have that information because you certainly don't know what you don't know. So I'm going to apply that and continue to get better. And then at the same time, I now have a pitch deck, which I can improve. I can pitch it to other companies, other people, other investors.
Practice. Yes.
It's practice. And lastly, I could take it and I could work it into my sales presentation because I've been kind of just talking to people and giving them a unique experience every time. Now I have a presentation that showcases the business in 12 minutes and it's real concise.
If you knocked it out of the park on your first try, imagine what you can do on your fifth, sixth, or 10th.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. So you mentioned that you're very selective as to who you work with. Do you have any specific niche or industry that you specialize in?
Yeah.
So
We work
basically,
with,
what is your ideal client avatar? In
yeah, the
other
client
words,
avatar is entrepreneurs, forward-minded thought leaders that are looking to create a show that's
Mhm.
going to help build their brand, whether it's a personal brand or a company brand. And it's going to be putting positive-minded content into the world so the audience can listen to it and grow in some way. And we also do it for organizations that are using it as kind of a bulletin board to get all this great information to their team. So now the company is actually vibrating at a higher level. So we're looking for, it doesn't always have to be faith-based, but typically those are kind of the organizations that are doing that work. But any organization that's making the world better in some way, I'm going to be interested to talk to them and see how a podcast could help them in their marketing and branding. And the entrepreneurs that are real serious about what they're doing and have a great story to tell, and either it's interviews or they're doing the solo show. We'll talk to them as well and do a discovery call for free and see if it's a good fit. And of course, they also need to be able to pony up, and be able to afford it. So there's a lot of times people who are great, I'd love to help them, but maybe if they met me 3 years ago, I would have did it for, $100. But now we actually see, here's the thing I learned is that a lot of times, and I've made this mistake plenty of times. So this is to any young entrepreneur or young business, the mistake that I'm going to speak generally here,
Sure.
that we can make is that we kind of like feel bad almost. Like we want to give it to someone at this affordable level because we want to, well, yeah, we're doing great work, but we don't like want to seem like we're this big capitalistic company. We're kind of young and growing. So you make these offers that seem so great to them, but then like the value perception on their side of it is lower. So they don't think you're giving them as much great value. Not only that, what happens is now with the lower amount, you could do less with it. Like if you
Yeah.
wanted me to build you a race car and you gave me $5,000, but the next guy has 50 grand to make it or 150 grand to make it, we're not playing with the same deck of cards. So if you're only charging, $50 to do something, good luck getting anyone else to help you with it, including
Exactly.
yourself. You're going to be working all day, every day on it for $50. When if you charge, 2,500, now you can hire the people like I've been able to work with me on it. And we can actually put the best podcast out into the world because we have the means to do it. So you'll pay more for it, but we can at least then say we're doing the best we can. And we were not able to do that in the beginning because I wasn't charging enough to get you the best product. I unfortunately was handing in stuff the best we could with the budget. And here's the deal. I was working 50 hours on something for what you paid me to do 1 hour. So I was still giving you basically the better solution, but it was costing me way too much time and energy to the fact where I was just killing myself. And then try to do that and actually have a successful business, it really doesn't work out.
That's
So I
okay.
would say make sure you are offering what your value is so you can actually do the best. If you're a coach and you're making people fit and you're only charging them for a little bit of time or whatever, and they come with a bad attitude every time because they're only paying you, $20 a visit, so they're not taking it super serious. They get zero results out of it. You look bad. They don't have results. But if you charge, $1,000, whatever it is for a few sessions with you, you're going to get the right people who are like, I'm getting a result at the end of this thing because I'm paying for the result. And now the coach can actually do what they already do well, but they're working with someone who wants to play ball. Like they want to come to the table with the right information. And now that coach has a little bit of an extra budget. So maybe they can get better gear for their gym, or they can advertise to get better XYZ, and their studio's cleaner or whatever. They can actually provide a better service now because they're charging the right amount. If they charge so little that they could barely exist and breathe, they're going to be coaching you in the parking lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is gold. This is gold. So many people are struggling with that. I used to as well. So one question I really that came to mind is, so how did you get out of that rut yourself? On one hand, you want to help people, and then you're charging so little money that just to make it affordable for them, and that these people see you as not that, not much value. So how did you get out of that rut so they can, hey, that you started respecting yourself, your time, started charging what you were worth? Sure, you lost some business, but then you attracted the right people. How did you make the transition? Because that's
Yeah,
a
it takes
point that a lot of businesses are struggling right now.
takes a little bit of time. I don't know that it's something you just put a line in the sand. What I ended up doing is not renewing some of the clients that were paying me an inappropriate amount. Like I was getting abused and they didn't even realize it. So I didn't make a big deal. It's not their fault. Hey, I said yes to a deal. They signed it. I signed it. And that's not their fault. Right. But it just became a situation where I remember working with a client and they renewed with me twice at a particular dollar amount that was for half the year. Right. So it was like twice a year I got this lump sum from them and it looked good up front. But when you figure out, wow, every week I'm putting 8 hours into it, 8 hours a week times 6 months divided by the amount they just paid me, I would have been better off going back to the taco place to go make some tacos. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's not even like a joke. It literally was like paying me like
Yeah,
I was 16 years old. So when renewal came, I didn't fight for it. I was like, I think, there's other people out there that can help you with this. And I wish you well. And if you ever want to work together again, we could review that. But then I changed our pricing on our website to the more appropriate pricing. And that I scaled up over time. It recently, we just changed a little bit more because our offerings improved. So we're giving you more. We're becoming more the Mercedes, we're getting into that level. So now the cost is going up. But before we were offering Fords, so we were charging it for a Ford. Now we're getting into the Audi, charge you for an Audi. Um, and so I do feel as a company grows, as long as you know that you're delivering, you got to be able to come to the table and deliver on it. If you don't, if you charge 12 grand for something, you're giving them a lump of coal, that
of
you're
course.
you're a shyster. But if you actually know that what you're producing is quality content like we are confidently, then you start to upgrade. And so I think it does take a little time because you're going to have to weed out some of those like bad deals. That I still have some stuff on the books that's not serving anymore. And sometimes they'll take a deal at a lower amount if there's kind of a what's in it for me thing. Like maybe they'll do some sponsorships for you that you normally would have to pay for, but so you're like, okay, well, that's a $500 value. So, and I used to do that stuff more in the beginning, and I'm getting away from doing that. But so now the price is the price. And I know with the current price, I can actually put out the best product, feel really good about it. I've worked with Dr. Jamil, who's my coach. We talked about, margins and profitability, and he's really helped me. Funny enough, we're talking about how I'm growing. He's a big part of it because he's actually coached me into different mindset recently to do this. And he's actually the one who realized that even though I improved my pricing, I was still short. I was coming up short in certain areas because you have to look at it holistically, the whole month, what you need, what your expenses are, what your profit is. And you might have one plan that's paying you X and it's actually appropriately getting you a gross margin, but then someone's an older deal that's killing you. So this account's paying you for that account. Plus it's helping you afford to pay your team for the bad business deal. And once you get rid of these little guys, then you all have only the appropriately paying ones. Now, all of a sudden you're going to see what in 6 months, you're going to feel like you really you got off the highway onto a different road and it's sunshine now because you're not beating yourself up with those bad deals. So I would just say the first thing you need to do, and this is from my own experience, is you need to acknowledge it and realize you have the problem. Then you can take care of it, put a plan in place, weed out the bad deals, just like you would weed out your lawn, get rid of them, plant new seeds, let that grow. And then over time, you're going to see big results. We went from literally like having $500 in recurring revenue to now closing in on 10 grand in deals, closed business in a month. And just the last 8 months, going from that to that. I'm talking recurring revenue. Once in a while, we get these clients that pay us here or there, but I changed our plans from paying us here and there because that's like, it didn't give people incentive to stick to it. They would say, oh, well, we want to start a podcast. We'll do a few episodes. If we like it, we'll do a few episodes later. That's not what we want to work with. So now it's a subscription model. So you pay us X, we produce up to 1 episode a week for our clients. And then the different plans include different things. Like first is audio, cover art, show notes, distribution. That's the pro plan. You get into the influencer plan. Now you're getting audio, video. So it's going on YouTube, plus all the audio channels like Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, show notes, titles, transcriptions, videos for social media with subtitles. You're getting a full package. And then we also do it yourself. Someone wants to learn how to do it. I do courses with them. It's actually sessions with me one-on-one, similar to what you do to coach your clients. And they pay me for time. And it's just an exchange of time for information. And we do that. And then coming down the pipe. So we're recording this. I got to double check my calendar. What's today? The 3rd March.
Yes.
So this is March 3rd. If you're hearing this in the future, March 3rd, I'm making a statement that Social Chameleon has a new plan coming out called the Elite Plan. Stay tuned for what that's going to entail. But I realize that we say we're podcasting done for you, and that's true. But there's a couple elements that we're missing in the process of podcasting that we're adding to the table. So now we can fully stand behind that statement.
Beautiful. So much gold. I'm glad I'm recording this so I can listen to it as well myself because I'm at a stage now to go from where I'm now to the next level as well. We'll definitely talk about that after. Awesome. Now let's wrap things up. Let me finish by asking you a series of rapid fire questions on advices.
Okay.
First of all, what would you say has been the best advice you've ever received?
Changing my thought process to things happen to you to now things happen for you.
Beautiful.
It unlocks the door.
Totally. The worst advice ever received so far, other than get a job?
Was you should quit and go back to doing what you used to do.
Yes. If you were blessed with a time machine and go back in time and meet face to face with an 18-year-old Mike, what's the number one piece of advice you would give to him knowing all that you know now?
Don't settle for better than what you can and truly do deserve.
Beautiful. You're a podcaster. Imagine that today you're interviewing the most special person in your life, which is yourself. What's the first question you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. What is the first question that comes to your mind?
Where do you want to be in 10 years?
And your answer is?
continuing to do what I do now, scaling the company up, happily married, beautiful relationship with my current daughter, Isabel, and possibly more children. Beachfront property, wake up, look out, ocean's right there, sipping a cup of coffee with my soulmate and just sharing the world, being purpose driven, producing content for myself and clients that is forward thinking, inspiring people to be the best versions of themselves. And if I woke up and got to do that every single day, I am living a dream.
Beautiful. Now, the last question, my favorite question. What is the smallest thing you've done so far in your life that has had the greatest impact both in your life and business? And by small, I don't mean something small, I mean the one thing you've done.
Okay, so ask it one more time. The one thing I've done that has made the biggest impact in
That has had the
business?
biggest positive impact in both your life and your business. Like for me, it's been starting my podcast. What about you?
I would have to say, I don't know if it's a two-parter, because I wouldn't have started the podcast if I didn't start Social Chameleon first. So that kind of came first and then the podcast. But yeah, the amount of incredible people I've met in doing podcasting is
Absolutely.
it's enormous. You have 162 episodes out right now, because you just mentioned this episode is 162. Well, I have 122, and I've gone
Beautiful.
consecutive weeks. I haven't taken 1 week off since November 4th of 2019. Every single week a new episode comes out. I'm very prideful in that. And the amount of people I've met that just blow me away and have become friends. And I've even created mastermind groups with people who've been on Mic'd Up. And I was talking to a friend earlier that I want to create like a little getaway with a couple, guys. Maybe we do it, guys and girls, but kind of a getaway where it's like just a positive week of just kick ass, and we can go and dive, like really lean in on each other. So the best thing I've ever done, yeah, I would also say it's start Mic'd Up, which came from Social Chameleon, being an entrepreneur, and the connections and relationships I've built have made me a better person today, for sure.
Awesome. Now, one question for me. Do you have any tips for me to improve my podcast?
Go back and ask yourself why you're doing it in the first place. Make sure that you have a crystal clear understanding of why you do it. Um, and then from a production standpoint, I'd have to listen to more of your shows to really have a good feel for it. But I do feel that great content is the most important thing. So whether it's coming from you or a guest or a combination of the two, the conversation and story is always the most important thing. But I've had people like record on conference lines that sound so bad that you could have the best interview of all mankind. But if it sounds like, you're recording it on an Amtrak train, you're going to lose people. They're going to drop off. And the
Totally.
expectations are that you're just not serious. So I do feel a podcast is a time when you do want the professional look, feel, sound quality to be there. So I would say, to you, just make sure you have all the elements. If you want to be professional, you got to act like a professional. This is not just you, this is everybody.
Right.
And if you're like, okay, well, Mike, I don't have the budget. Well, then you know what? There's plenty of YouTube videos to learn how to do it yourself, which is how I got
Totally.
through this. And then
Mhm.
once I learned how to do it, see, I keep seeing this thing pop up on Instagram. It's a Picasso quote. I don't remember exactly what the quote is, but a lady, I guess, met him at like a cafe and asked him to draw a picture or something. And he charged her, I don't know, I'm making this up, $40,000 back then. She, whoa, what are you talking about? It takes you 5 minutes to doodle on this napkin. He goes, you're not paying me for my 5 minutes. You're paying me for the 50 hours a week I put into my craft for the last 25 years. Because I wouldn't be able to draw this at that level without that experience. So you're paying for that.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to get across here is, that is what our value truly is.
Absolutely beautiful. Love that. Now, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so?
If you really want to have a conversation, I'm happy to meet anybody for a half hour, whether it's a discovery call just to become a friend, collaborator, be on the podcast, start a podcast with us. So you can email me at Mike at Social Chameleon, and it's CHAMELEON.us. So go ahead and email me. But you could also connect with me on Instagram, and it's at Mike DiCioccio. So if you see the correct spelling in the episode, just at Mike DiCioccio. I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can search for me at Mike DiCioccio there. And Facebook, I'm kind of getting away from. It's become way too much of a political fire hose, for good, bad, and ugly reasons. And I don't seem to connect with people the same way I do on Instagram and LinkedIn. So those are really the two big ones. Instagram is where I post the most content and I check it the most frequently. So if you really want to engage with me, that's the best spot.
Okay, I'll put that in the show notes. And what's the name of your podcast again?
Mike Up, and it's spelled Mike, like Mike, and then apostrophe D, and then up with a exclamation point.
All
So
right,
it's
awesome.
Mic'd Up with Mike DiCioccio. And I interview entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, business leaders, athletes. I've had Olympic athletes on, just some incredible people. And the reason I have them on again is so they can share their story and how they got to where they're at in their own unique way. We're not saying go copy their story. What I'm saying is be yourself and use some of the things you've learned in their story to apply to yourself, and then go to the highest that you can with it.
Absolutely love that. Listen, Mike, it's been an absolute honor, pleasure, and a blast talking to you. I salute you. You're truly with a heart. Keep shining your light. I love the fact that your business is all about service and helping and working with heart-centered people. We're completely aligned with that. And it was meant for us to connect. Who knows? Maybe we can collaborate and do big things together. I'm sure that's the ground is fertile for that. So we'll definitely talk about that. So listen, we'll definitely stay in touch. I salute you. As we say here, have a fantabulous day ahead of you, brother. And see you soon. Take care.
I appreciate you. Yeah, this is not the end of our conversations
Absolutely
together.
not.
And the podcast space is such a wide open space right now that I'm not even thinking about competition. I'm thinking about collaboration.
Absolutely.
And so I'd love to work with you in some capacity.
Definitely. We'll definitely gonna talk about that. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, brother. Cheers.
Thanks, man. Be great and be grateful.
Ciao.